Yeah, g'day Titans fans, and welcome back to the Gold Coast Titans Frontline Podcast with an episode we are extremely excited to be bringing you. We are here for our NRLW 2024 season preview. If this is your first time watching the Gold Coast Titans Frontline Podcast, then we extend our warmest of welcomes to you, and we really hope that you do enjoy the show and enjoy hearing us talk all things Titans, including NRLW, of course, every single week. And if you're a returning listener, of course, all the same, we are thrilled to have you back here, and we appreciate you following us on the NRLW side of things. My name's Dane. I'm the founder of Clarkey's Rugby League column, and I'm joined every week by my co-host Blaze, who is the founder of BKRsport on YouTube and an original Frontline member from the very start. My brother, what an episode. I can't wait. How are you going?
Yeah, going great, mate. I will have to clarify, I'm not an original Frontline member from the very, very start, but very early days, very, very early days. I was only 16 years old with long blonde streaky hair when I joined up, and, people like Rhonda and a few of the others that actually Rhonda's the only one. So Rhonda, she'll be listening to this right now as well. She's actually got a granddaughter who's playing with the Roosters team, Devana Papali'i, so watch out for her. Hopefully she comes to the Gold Coast Titans soon enough. It's a big shout out to Rhonda. She was one of the originals, and everybody else hasn't been there. So it's just her and then myself, and then got a couple of guys like Dan and Antonio. And we love it here in the front line, getting passionate about this community, getting passionate about the game. And it's so good to welcome in this women's team over these last few years. You know, we had a great year last year. I think we won the Spoon before that. But, overall, this Titans women's team is really proof that we have a great community around that is willing to support. We have arguably, I'd probably say the second best in regards to the fan attendance behind the Knights. The Knights, obviously, they've won 2 women's premierships in a row. So it's no surprises that the Titans it is a surprise, actually. I will say it is a surprise we have the second best. I will say, though, that the front line is a very large part of that. We do have fans from all across the stadium, but we do get that noise going there. The Knights, they have such a large fan base because they've won as many as they have. But I would have expected a little bit more out of teams like the Broncos, who have been around since the start 6-7 years ago, the Roosters, the Dragons, the Warriors, but they haven't been in for a little bit now. So overall, really impressed by our community, really impressed by what we're doing here, and looking forward to the NRLW season to come.
100%, man. I love the frontline community that we've built, and I love that everyone's just gravitated and naturally got around our NRLW side all the same, because there has been a stigma in the past attached to this competition. And I think last year with the record numbers and what we've just seen in the Women's Origin as well, for example, people are really starting to wake up and appreciate this league for as great as it is. Final admin point we've got for you guys. The podcasts, if you're an original listener, you will know last year we did NRLW and NRL combined. Blaze asked people on the Gold Coast Titans Frontline Podcast Facebook group what they prefer, and it seemed the majority there wanted everything in one episode. So episodes will run a little bit longer for this run home of the NRL season and the start of the NRLW season, because it'll be one combined podcast. But this one today,
I guess we'll also see throughout like how it does go. Like if it's going for an hour and 30, hour and 45, guys, then we will separate the two because that's obvious. Hour and 45 is too long, so separating the two is ideal there. But also, I want to point out before we do get into this chat here today is that unfortunately, Dane's internet, Clarkey's internet there does freeze up a little bit. Overall, you can still hear what's being said, and you see him for the most part. But yeah, it's not usually like this. So do kind of stick with us. It was like that for yesterday's podcast as well, but we are filming this on the same day. But overall, we'll see how it goes and to see if we're going to keep them on the same podcast or like this where it's two separate.
100%. We'll listen to you guys for now, and we'll test and adjust from there. Final admin point, actually, we are not grubs. We are in the same clothes because we're recording back-to-back today. We didn't wear the same clothes on a different day.
He is a grub. No, he is a grub.
Mate, every team needs a good grub, man, that's for sure. Alrighty, mate. Well, I wanted to start with the team history and performance and achievements of our players in the NRLW. I appreciate some fans will be absolutely privy to this, but there'll be another bunch that might be early on in their support of this team and might not have been with them from the start. So the Titans joined the NRLW competition in 2021. We finished third in our inaugural season. That qualified us for semi-finals against the second-place Dragons, where we did unfortunately lose 24 points to 18 at Leichhardt in a brave effort.
Came back.
we did almost come back. Now, how that worked, guys, at the time, if you finished in the top 4, it was basically first versus fourth, second versus third, winners played in a grand final. It was as simple as that. So with that loss, that ended our season. Now, the following season, we had some significant roster changes and we faced our toughest season to date. We actually finished last with only one win across the whole season, and we did have the worst points differential of any side in the competition at that stage by far. Our only win that year did come over the Eels, and they finished with 1 win themselves, but above us with 4 in a games. So it can only be described as a season that didn't go in our favour, which, unfortunately to say, mate, Titans fans are probably familiar with. I don't think that's unfair to say. Then 2023 rolls around. We make some crucial signings, and Blaze, I will let you recap this part of our history because it is the brightest we've ever had in Titans history, NRL or NRLW.
Yeah, look, the competition expanded to 10 teams. So I think the Cowboys came in, the Tigers came in, and was it the Raiders? Were the other teams? I think those were the 3 teams that came in. We ended up finishing 4th in this season with a 3-2 record, getting into the finals there. It was a little bit nervy coming into the back end of the year, but we pumped the Eels and pumped the Raiders, which was really good stuff there. Eels obviously ended up coming last, I believe it was, last year. And we really were able to come home strong. And then we got into those finals and were the underdogs in the semi-final against the first-place Roosters. But we did beat them 12-0. Now, I had a very emotional reaction. I was live streaming this game on BKRsport. And obviously, this was the first time that we'd seen a professional sport in the Gold Coast actually make it to the grand final, whether that be women's or men's in any sport, right? Gold Coast Blaze in the basketball didn't happen. The Gold Coast United in the A-League and whatnot didn't happen. We've not had a rugby union team or a cricket team. So the only thing was like a VFL, right, which is like the second division for AFL and for the Sunnies. But overall, it was a really impressive moment to beat the Roosters, who were the favourites coming into the season as well. Very hot favourites with players like Millie Boyle, with Taryn Aiken and Gordon Baxter, really solid players there. And then unfortunately, we went into the grand final, which was fantastic. But unfortunately, we did lose that one to the Knights 24-18. But with about 6 or so minutes to go in that game, we were actually leading. We were up and we had a good old opportunity to win the grand final. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. So we had to take our happiness that day from the Broncos losing in the men's game. But yeah, look, it was a great season. Really, really enjoyed it. And I have a lot of confidence for the women going into 2024, sorry.
Yeah, well said, mate. And if you guys want our recap of that grand final to go all the way back then, that podcast is available. It's also available as a YouTube video. Achievements from our NRLW club to date include 2023 grand finalist. Our coach, Karen Murphy, was the 2023 coach of the year, as was Shannon Marto as the Dally M prop. And Dally M captain of the year in 2021 went to Brittany Brayley-Narty, who is still with us as our hooker. We have a few other achievements from players that are no longer with us. That includes Try of the Year in 2021 to Shania Power. There was no Dally M Team of the Year in 2021. That's 1 to 13. That only came in the following season. We had Destiny Brill as our RLPA Rookie of the Year in 2021. And the RLPA still had a dream team in 2021, which is voted by the players. On the wing, we had Karina Brown. She lines up for us this year again. Shania Power and Destiny Brill, who have both left us. So and
we have also forgotten one. You've forgotten a couple here. And in 2023, we also had Georgia Hale as Lock of the Year and Georgia Hale as Captain of the Year. Oh, wait, no, she got robbed of both of those at the Dally M's. So just want to clarify, we are very strongly in belief that Georgia Hale deserved those 2 awards. So I wanted to throw that one out there. She didn't technically win it, but she deserved it.
Yeah, can I be honest as well? When I was actually reading out our notes for this show that we prepared, I was reading, I'm like, where's Georgia Hale? Where's Georgia Hale? And then I actually did honestly start to think I forgot her. So when you said that, I believed it for a second. But then, of course, my mind flashed back. And
well, you know what's crazy as well is she ended up winning the Georgia Hale in 2023 ended up winning the Player of the World in the women's game. So because obviously she played for New Zealand and whatnot, so she ended up winning the women's player of the entire world. So for her not to win the lock and the captain was a little bit of a reach there. I think it was Samantha Talfa, who is a very good player. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not at Georgia Hale's level in my personal opinion. And I believe that she definitely deserved that award.
100%. When we talk top 5 tackles made in an individual game for NRLW, it is only Simona Taufa and Georgia Hale in that list. Georgia Hale has the most tackles in NRLW history. Simona Taufa is second to her. I think Georgia Hale had a game last year with 55 tackles for 0 missed, which just sums up her absolute incredible leadership and defense. It's unbelievable, mate. And that's in 70 minutes, keep in mind as well. Alrighty, our next section, mate, let's do a bit of roster analysis for our listeners, and I'll start with a bit of a depth chart. From there, I'll read out a few injuries, and then I'll get your breakdown of where you think we might be a little bit short. One fullback, and I should mention, I have included players in multiple positions here if I believe they can play in multiple positions. So, for example, Lauren Brown is counted as a half and a hooker in our depth options here. One option at fullback, 3 wingers, 4 centers, 3 halves, 3 hookers, 7 middle forwards, and 4 edge forwards. Our current injuries are to Shante Kiriaratu, who's a half, Destiny Mino-Sinapati, who's an outside back. They both have knee injuries. And Ivana Lolasia, who is the younger sister of current Wallabies fly half Noah Lolasia, is unfortunately also injured and will miss the season. Only other person out in the short term I'll let you touch on. And I also want to get your thoughts on the depth here and where you think we might be lacking a little bit.
Yeah, look, I think that overall, I'm very happy with the forwards because in the women's game, I do think that to win the competition, you have to have the best forward pack. I think that at the end of the day, it's the forward packs that actually win the game in the women's game, whilst in the men's, I do think it is more of a mixture. And that's not to take away from our backline at all, because we have a fantastic backline of Vanya Politi, Jamie Chapman, and the likes, right? But when you've got the 2 best front rowers in the game, in Shannon Marto and Jessica Ellison leading the line, plus also Georgia Hale, you've got New South Wales representative Shaylee Bent in the back row. You've also got the number 9, which is Party G was all over Bradley Nati, who was nominated for Hooker of the Year last year as well. Look, I think that our forwards are fantastic. I do have concerns, though, about the halves, which is a very similar complaint that we've had with the men's team. I think that we do lack in the depth of the back line and also the halves, which does concern me a little bit there. But I will also say that across the entirety of the competition, with such a new game, because the NRLW has only been going for like 6-7 years, with such a new game, you are going to have depth across the entirety of the competition. So I am really, really confident that we can get through our depth issues, but there is definitely depth issues in regards to, specifically the fullback. But I guess, if Vanya Politi was injured, we could chuck like a Jamie Chapo back there who can, I reckon she could do the job from back there in the fullback. You want to go the ball as much as possible with what she can do. We saw that in New South Wales for Origin. And if you go and have a look, just because it does have just the one fullback there technically on the roster, I think Chapo is a good option for at the back. I would have said Destiny Minasapati, but she's obviously injured for the season. Maybe you could play Emily Bass out there, very, very small though. I think the depth in the fullback position is where I would be most concerned about for sure.
I agree, and I do also agree with you that Jamie Chapman would be the logical choice. She's played on the wing for Australia and the Blues, so she is familiar under the high ball and those sort of backfield, back 3 specialist roles, I suppose. And I think she could fill in if we absolutely needed. I suppose my only other concern really does come around the halves. I would have loved to have had Shante available this year, but I also think that we do have another option in Sienna Lafipo. She's shown that she is a world-class lock in the women's Origin game.
Now I remember. I remember what you were saying now. I remember. Yeah, sorry, we're actually really kind of at party. I remember what you were saying now in regards to the injury. So, yeah, Sienna Lafipo is probably going to be back around 2, round 3. I was speaking to her after the Eels game. She was at the back, and I was asking how she was going. And, yeah, I think that she's back for round 2 or round 3. So she'll be back pretty soon, which is good because, yeah, as you were saying, she is a very, very strong player, whether it be in the lock or in the halves.
Yeah, completely agree. And I do think that once she's back from injury, she does loom as our logical 14 just because she is so versatile and can play anywhere. So I suppose I agree with you. Fullback is the primary concern for our depth, and halves could get a little bit thin as well, potentially. Let's move on to our new signings. Now, some of our listeners will absolutely need to forgive me here. What makes this even more embarrassing is I actually do come from a Polynesian family, but Australian born and raised. So I'm going to struggle with some of these surnames. So
would you like me to go through these names?
Mate, please do. Please do. You saved me the
because obviously, well, with the commentary that I do on BKRsport, I have a pretty good knack for names. Now, guys, I will also clarify that I may not get this perfect, but I do have a pretty good knack for names here. So a couple of our signings, we've got Ivan Walasio, who's injured and missed the season, unfortunately. Ngata Koturu Arakua, Georgia Sim, Lily Coach, Malalea Sua, Matakino Gray. I think that's the signings we've got for this year.
Yeah, man. And I think when I look at this bunch of signings here, my mind goes to Matakino Gray. I thought it was pretty impressive there in the Origin under-19s women's game. She didn't finish the game due to injury, but she was physical enough, particularly for a teenager. And I do understand when you go to our depth, we do have 7 middle forwards, so it does become a little bit difficult for her to break in that regard. But of course, we need to remember our players outside of our top 17 will still be playing footy. They'll be playing in the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership for the Manly Sea Eagles, with a historic deal between both of our clubs. So I think that she can impress enough in that competition to break into the side, mate. So I'm going to name her for my top signing this year. Who's caught your eye, and who do you think will be your best signing?
Yeah, so I think that also, just to reiterate in regards to the signing with Manly, is that I remember Manly were actually playing, obviously, in the women's Harvey Norman before our game against Manly in the men's game. So I saw like Haley J. Ullman-Maunsell was playing on the weekend and a couple of the others. So that's good. We get the girls still playing even when they're not being necessarily selected in the main team. Because otherwise you could not be playing rugby league for quite a while, which does really hurt in regards to needing that depth ready to rock and roll. Now, I'm actually going to go a little bit different here, and I'm going to select Lily Rose Colch. Now, I actually don't know a great deal about Lily Rose Colch, but I have seen, and I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly here, but I have seen some really good reports from around Titans fans in just the NRLW circles and in the women's circles, and I have been seeing her name pop up a little bit. So out of all those new signings of Lolasio, Arakua, Georgia Sim, Suwa, Gray, and Cole, she's the only one who's actually, Karen Murphy, is selected to be in our starting 17 this week. So I think that shows that she must be a pretty good player. She must be coming on as a bit of a utility there. So although I may not know an insane amount about her, I back her in to have a really, really good season.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if she shares the hooker minutes there with Brittany Brayley-Narty, or how we use her this week. And I think that's a great shout. The only thing holding me off making the same pick was I do expect Sienna Lafippo to be our 14 once she comes back. I think she's a great 13, but as we know, Georgia Hale is not getting displaced for anyone in this competition. So that'll be interesting to look at and watch throughout the year. So a slightly different prediction from us there. Let's have a look at our 2024 losses. We lose Steph Hancock, Brooke Sadler, Caitlin Phillips, and Sophie Buller. I think it's a pretty obvious one which of those bunch we'll miss the most, and it is Steph Hancock. What do you think we'll miss most about Steph's game, and who do you see kind of stepping up to mitigate that loss?
Yeah, look, I think that really appreciated what Steph was able to do for us over the years. She, had her heart in her sleeve, and really amazing woman that really put every little bit of life and soul into this club. And put that on my story the other week, and wanted to make sure that she was very, very aware that we love her. We understand that she has to go to the Dragons. I do think that obviously, she is. And I hate to say this, right? I don't want to say this, but she is obviously getting older in regards to the game. I think she's, 42 or something now, which is a large age for the game. So I do think this might be her last year with the Dragons. She might have a couple more years. I'm not too sure. But I do think that I can see why we have kind of gone in our separate directions because we do have a lot of younger forwards like Matakino Gray and whatnot coming to the system to really utilize going forward. So, yeah, much love to Steph Hancock. Amazing woman. Did some amazing things with the club. But I think we will miss the most is just her passion for the game and passion for the club.
Her passion and her leadership. When Shannon Martel or Jessica Elliston would come for a break, Steph 10, 15, maybe 20-minute period and really bring energy and enthusiasm from the bench and step it up for us. Someone will need to do that as a young gun this year. I think we know Riley Jorgensen will, but when we go to this, we'll talk about round one in a second, actually. But when we look at round one, for example, Danny Parisi or Leica Clark, the burden falls on their shoulders, for lack of a better term, where they're going to need to be our new Steph Hancock that comes on and brings it for our side. We'll talk quickly about our coaching staff as well, mate. Of course, Karen Murphy is our head coach. On our website, I couldn't find any additional information on assistant coaches, so hopefully the side posts that on the website soon enough. But Karen Murphy, mate, brilliant coach. I think she's the best coach in the women's game. Would you agree with that, though?
Absolutely. I think that Karen Murphy she won Coach of the Year in 2023 and absolutely deserved it. A lovely woman, very strong-willed, strong-minded, knows what she wants out of this team, very confident in this team. And the ladies all walked around. I think it was before the Eels game or before the Warriors game. I can't remember. They were all doing the walk around the stadium with C-Bus, and you can just see that Karen knew what she was doing. And I've known Karen for a little bit now, and yeah, really, really confident what she can provide. There's a reason why she won Coach of the Year, and I will dead set back her into, it's very difficult, right? It's like in the men's game with like Craig Bellamy or Wayne Bennett and whatnot. You don't actually see the best coaches win the Coach of the Year award, unfortunately. You usually see like these coaches down around that middle area, expected to be middle area, who then turn their team into something special. That's who usually get the Coach of the Year. And I don't think that Karen Murphy necessarily needs to turn this team into something special. I think we are something special. So that's why I feel like she might be on a little bit of a tough one to win that Coach of the Year, but I do think she will absolutely deserve it. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I actually agree with your analysis of who could win. For what it's worth, I do have today coming out on my Instagram page and Facebook page a bunch of Dalian predictions. I did name her as my predicted Coach of the Year because I think we'll win the premiership. But looking back now with what you've just said there, the team of the year would be announced before that point, I believe. So,
well, like for example, I'll give you I'm not too sure who the coach is of these teams, but I do expect a rise out of the Sharks this year. So the coach of the Sharks could get a good opportunity. I do expect a rise out of the Broncos again this year. So I do expect that the Broncos, that'll be Scotty Prince, isn't it? Isn't he the coach of the Broncos women's?
I've never heard of that guy, if I'm absolutely honest.
Let's keep that off here. Actually, I'm glad you didn't bring that up on the men's podcast, actually. I'm glad you didn't, because I would have ripped into him. But anyway, it is what it is. So Scotty Prince is the coach of the Broncos women's, though, yeah?
He is. Are we recording right now, or are we offline?
No, we're on. No, we're on.
Good. Just I mind my P's and Q's. Yes, he is the coach of the women's side, Scott Prince, but we shall not speak his name ever again beyond this point. So
no, yeah,
you know what?
Unfortunately, he said some. Let's put it this way: he said some disappointing things in the public, which is not exactly what our fan base is a bit happy about. But yeah, so I think that unfortunately, a guy like Scotty Prince could win Coach of the Year. The Sharks won. I don't believe in the Dragons enough, but if the Dragons did something, Jamie Soward's a good shout as well. I couldn't see the Eels doing too much. Can't see the Tigers doing too much. Don't think the Raiders will be doing a great deal either. The Knights, they've won 2 years in a row, so they're not going to be getting Coach of the Year. So yeah, look, I think that it'll come down to Karen Murphy or or Scott Prince or the Sharks coach, which I'm going to quickly go check while you talk.
Yeah, absolutely. While you do that, actually, I think we can leave all of the roster analysis in the past, and we'll get the Sharks coach for everyone in just a second.
Tony,
what I've got on Big Tony.
Tony.
Hopefully Karen's got a rabbit up her sleeve and she can win it over Tony. That's what we want to see. On screen, if you're on YouTube, of course, right now you do have the team list for our game against the Dragons. We will continue our season preview in just a moment, but we're going to pause here. We were going to give you our predicted best 17, but we've released this after team list now, so that segment we'll just do a round one preview for you guys. So our side, starting with the outside backs, Vanya Palite is our fullback. Wingers, Emily Bass and Karina Brown. Centers are Jamie Chapman and Niall Williams-Guthrie. Our halves, Talia Mayono, and Lauren Brown. How good to see Talia back in the team sheet. Our front row is Shannon Marto, Brittany Brayley-Nati, and Jessica Elliston. Our back row is Zara Canfield, Shaylee Bent, Georgia Hale. And our bench is Lily Rose Colch, Riley Jorgensen, Danny Parisi, and Leica Clark. Any surprises at all in our team list for you? The only one for me was no Sienna Lafipo until you told me that she was injured.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she injured herself, and I think it was game 2 of State of Origin. So yeah, look, I think that there's no real surprise. Again, there's people don't know enough about the game. Like you look at this team, and it is star-studded, man. Like Vanya Politi, you look at this Origin series of Queensland versus New South Wales this year, and if you're talking 5 players, if you brought up 5 random players that you thought were the best from both teams, the best players on the field, you've got Avanya Politi there. You've definitely got Jess Ellison and Shannon Marta. Shannon Marta, I think, one player of the series. You've got Lauren Brown, who kicked that winning field goal in game 2. And you've got Jamie Chapo. But unfortunately, they didn't give the ball to Chapman besides that game 1 where she dominated, right? So for me, you look at this team, it is star-studded. Politi, Origin, Karina Braden, Emily Bass, ex-Bronco, very, very good wingers there. I do think Karina's a hard worker. That's what I like about Karina. Aston is a couple of the best in the game. Noah Williams-Guthrie and Jamie Chapman. Chapo, we know, is, I honestly say, the best player in the NRLW right now across any position. I would say Jamie Chapman is the best player in the NRLW right now. She's so dominant. And Noah Williams-Guthrie is so quality, man. So quality. The halves, Talia Fuimaono, didn't get to prove herself too much in the women's Origin. Really didn't get too much time there. But she was a great player when she was at the Dragons. Hasn't been able to do anything yet with us because she was injured all last season. So I'm looking forward to a real big bounce back here from her this year. She is an Origin representative, though. And then you got Lauren Brown, again, Origin representative, who was fantastic for us last year. And I tell you what, we're not worried about who can kick a field goal. We're not worried about who can kick a field goal on this team because she is the field goal queen. And then what do I need to say about the forwards? Like you said, every single one of those forwards are going to absolutely get the job done. The only issue that I look at is, potentially the interchange where we don't know enough about like a Parisi, Clark, Lily Rose Colch, and we know enough about Riley Jorgensen. So she'll come on and do her job. But yeah, look, I don't see much of a weakness in this team across the team.
Yeah, I think that we have a very even roster. The only area that we really could identify before when we looked at depth was the fullback role. Apart from that, this is a roster that is pretty well cemented. We know our strongest 17. And I think that's actually going to be a key difference this year compared to our men's team. We didn't know what our best 17 was in the men's team in round 1. And I'd argue we still don't know what it is now, mate, if I'm absolutely honest. Whereas we know what our best 17 is for the women's team. And being a shorter season, that's where it becomes even more important. So when we look ahead at this Dragons game, they finished 7th on the ladder last year. Interestingly enough, they have won 3 of their 4 games against us. That one loss, we actually watched together. It was when we were before the Melbourne function last year, when we versed the Storm in the NRL. We were watching online at KO. When I bought my wife and kids, and Tegan Berry scored a hat trick and only just hung on.
No, we won that game.
We did win it. No, I'm saying that's the only time they haven't beat us. They beat us in all other games. So I suppose the point I'm trying to make, apologies to listeners, is that although we are the better side, this is our bogey team. Our one win over them, we won by 1 or 2 points. It was super close, and we lost all 3 other games. So we cannot rock up to this game with the mindset of we made the grand final last year, we're a guns fight, this is just going to happen for us. We still have to work really hard to get this win. At Wynn Stadium, we've only played there twice, mate. We're 1 win, 1 loss. My key to victory and who we need to shut down, I think it goes without saying, it's Tegan Berry. She scored a hat trick on us last year. She's got the most tries in NRLW history. She's a star fullback. We need to find a way to shut her down. And our key to victory and how we win this game, in my opinion, respectfully to the Dragons forward pack, that forward pack is not on our level. There is not one rep player in their forward pack. When you go to our forward pack, every single player is a rep player or has played rep football besides Zara Canfield, who we know does an awesome job holding that edge there until Riley comes on and she's a junior rep player. So I think our forward pack is our key to victory and limiting Tegan Berry's involvement. Break it down for me, mate. How do you see this one and what's your prediction for this game?
Yeah, I agree. I think that we should beat them across the park. I dead set will say that, maybe, the fullback battle, Tegan Berry and Avanya Politi, is a fantastic battle there. And I think that's realistically where I worry the most, except for maybe Racine McGregor in the halfback. She's a very good. She's also the captain. Racine McGregor does know how to guide them around the field nicely. But yeah, I would not compare the two 4-packs. I think that our 4-pack is very, very cclearly the dominant. Like I said, to win the NRLW, I believe you have to have the better 4-pack, which we do. Then you go to the back line, and Bobby Law is a great centre. Margaret Velo is a good centre. But also, with that being said, they don't have representatives in this team, really. They don't. They just don't really have representatives in this team. In our back line, we've got Polisi and we've got Jamie Chapo. So, yeah, I think that realistically, actually, 4 out of our back 7 played Origin this year. 4 of them. Politi, Jamie Chapo, Talia Fuimona, and Lauren Brown. That's incredible. So I'm pretty confident in this game. But as you said, they are a bit of our bogey team. But overall, bogey schmogey, mate. We are going down to Wollongong, which sucks. I would have loved to have the first game at home. With that being said, though, we play the Dolphins in the men's game 2 hours or a couple of hours after this game in Brisbane. So I'm glad they don't clash as a home game, man. That would really, really suck there. So, yeah, look, I think going down to Wollongong, it'll set a good statement to get a win here. And, hopefully it's a good Sunday.
I completely agree, man. I think final points for me, shorter season in the NRLW, so we can't afford to start slow. We must start fast and win games like this that we're expected to. To add to your comment of our star-studded backline, Karina Brown and Williams Guthrie, the only ones that didn't feature in Origin. Williams Guthrie's not eligible because she's Kiwi, and Karina Brown's played for Australia, did such a great job coming in for us last year.
Did Emily Bass play Origin this year?
Yeah, she was marking Jamie Chapman in game 1 on the opposite wing.
You're right. Yeah, she was, yeah.
Just to add to what you said there, mate, absolutely brilliant call there. Racine McGregor, I do agree. I remember you and I had a debate a few years ago when I named her as the best NRLW player after she received that Dally M. And then you made the great point comparing it to the men's game. You said, well, Nico Hines won the Dally M, but you wouldn't say he's here, would you? And ever since that point, I've always respected Racine as a great player, but I do think she's also in that category where she won the Dally M, but she wasn't the best player in the league that year by circumstances. One other name I do want to mention, or two actually on their interchange, Casey Ray or Ree, they were saying in the under-19s.
Yeah, she was good in the under-19s. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, she was awesome. So we do have to watch her coming off the bench, depending on what role she plays. And Steph Hancock as well, just because we know what she brings. So there is a big job this week for Danny Parisi and Leica Clark in particular, and probably Riley as well. When they come off the bench into that middle, you've got to mark up on Steph Hancock. We can't afford for her to get a roll on. My final prediction, mate, I think we will win this game 24-6. I see us scoring tries and I see us defending pretty well. So I'll say we'll win by a 13-plus margin. And my score prediction, if I have to give one, is 24 points to 6. Jamie Chapman scores that much of an inside ball from Lauren Brown. That's my prediction, mate. How are you seeing this one? What's your final score prediction?
Look, I'm going to go with a 1-12. I think that we have a better team. I think we should win 13+, but I will go the conservative route just because it is an away game to start the season. And I do know that early season rust can happen, as you did say, though. We can't have too much early season rust, but the fact that it is a shortened season, it's only like 10 games. So, we need to get off to a good start. But we'll get into a second the teams that we're about to play throughout the year. And I think that we can absolutely capitalize on these first 4 rounds specifically because it actually gets tougher towards the back end of the year. So these first 4 rounds need to be capitalized on. And I think that starts with the Dragons here.
Well said, mate. Thank you very much for that breakdown and preview. I agree with everything. We both think Titans will win. So let's do it. That is our round 1 preview. And now we'll continue with our 2024 season preview. Let's go into our best player categories and make some predictions there, mate. I want to go best forward, back, rookie, and our overall best player. So I'll go to you first. Who do you think our best forward is going to be in 2024?
Yeah, look, I think that Shannon Martin has had a great start with the Origin, but I will say that Georgia Hale is going to be just as good, if not better this year, from the fact that she's just still as experienced as ever. I do want to make a big shout out here to Jess Ellison, though, because I do think that she's going to really turn up. And usually you do find that Shannon Martin and Ellison just have like this game here and this game here. They both It's at a very solid level when the other one's having a big game, but it'll either be Ellison or it'll be Marto. So I could see Jess getting up for that. But I'm going to go Georgia Hale again. I will say Georgia Hale, for me, will be the best forward again.
And I think last year you predicted Georgia as your overall best player, and I went Avania Polite, and you got that right there. So worth noting, you're going for 2 in a row here. I'm going to say Shannon Marto for my best forward. As you touched on, she was named the Women's Player of the Series for the State of Origin earlier this year. She started the year in insane form. No matter what level she plays at, she's just dominant. She's a pack leader. And as you mentioned, in previous years, you do see Jess rise to her same level and they kind of play off each other. I think this is a year where Shannon can really surge ahead as our genuine pack leader. And it'll be a situation where I can't really think of an NRLW example because it's a younger competition. But if I can go to an NRL men's example, I'd say the Roosters. Shannon Marto will be our Jared Warrior-Hargraves, where she is our enforcer and pack leader. And Jess Elliston will be our Lindsay Collins, where she's just behind an equally a rep player. Sorry to not be able to give an NRLW analogy there, but it's just the nature of the younger competition, I suppose. Best back, mate. Now, there's a few different options here. Who do you think is going to be our best back this year?
No, I think it's pretty simple. I think that, yes, there is multiple options, but I'm going to go with Jamie Chapman. The second one that I would consider would be Talia Fuimaono. I think that she's going to have a really, really huge year for the club. But Jamie Chapman's quality and just the sheer power that she does possess really does prove that she is the real deal. And I think that Jamie Chapman's going to have a phenomenal year where she's going to dominate the competition as she has been already.
And I think when we talk Jamie Chapman, right, she's a centre that goes looking for the ball, but she's also a centre that if you get her the ball early with good space, she will create something, right? She's the sort of centre like an Isabel Kelly or a Jessica Surgis, who unfortunately both play for the Roosters, and I think they'll be our number one rival this year. But you get them the ball early and they can create something, right? And when we look at Jamie Chapman in Origin 1, she went looking for the ball and she made it happen, right? Scoring that length of the field try. Then we look at the grand final. She scored a hat-trick off Lauren Brown, who kept putting her through that beautiful inside line and scoring there. So because Chapman can create for herself or take advantage when put in good situations, I've got no concerns naming her my best back. She's still super young too, man. I think she's like 22. So she will absolutely go to strength this year. She's my prediction. Best rookie. Now, are you going to stay with your prediction earlier of Lily Coach, given that she is, she's there already in round 1? You think she'll be the best signing? She's an option for a rookie. Will you stick with her for your prediction of best rookie?
No, I think that you've convinced me away from it, to be completely honest with you, because I do agree that Sienna Lafippo will be our 14 when she comes back, because she's not taking over for Georgia Hale in that 13. So, yeah, I do think that we'll have to go away from that, and we'll go Matakina Gray, who did play in that Origin under-19s and whatnot. So, yeah, look, I will say Matakino, but I'm not a great deal aware about these rookies. So, it's kind of a shot in the dark, but the only shot in the dark we can do is an educated guess and say the representative.
Good call there. I've got up Matakino Gray's Burleigh Bears profile from the BMD competition, they call it. So she's still 19 years old, born in New Zealand. She's played 22 games of BMD. This year she had 7 games where she averaged 5.5 hit-ups. She had 100 tackles at a 94% efficiency, and she ran for 63 meters. Majority of those minutes were over the interchange. Did play lock in her last 2 appearances and started the season at prop. So she's my selection as well, mate. I believe she will be our best rookie this year. Let's go to overall best. When the season's all said and finished, who do you think our outright best player will have been?
I'm going Georgia Hale again. I think that she is absolutely top-notch. Or do I go with Jamie Chapman? Oh, it's a tough battle here. No, I will go with Georgia Hale. I think that she owns the team in regards to the way that she carries herself. I think that she encourages the team. I think she motivates the team. I think she leads this team, and that's why she's the captain. And I will say that Georgia Hale goes back-to-back in regards to the best player that we've got in the team. I don't think she won the Paul Broughton equivalent for the NRLW either. I think it was Was it Shannon Marto maybe that won it last year? I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but I can certainly search it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. Well, I know that Georgia didn't do it because I know that she, personally speaking, should have got more. But yeah, I will go with Georgia Hale because I think that her role is integral to us winning the premiership.
Absolutely, a great call there. Shannon Marto was named as our NRLW Player of the Year last year, which was back-to-back honours. So she's won 2 years in a row now, and she's my prediction for a third year in a row, mate. No shock there. I'm also very tempted to name Jamie Chapman, but I will say Shannon Marto, just the work she gets through in the middle is absolutely impressive, and I think she'll have another great season. And she would be the first Titan ever to win 3 in a row, I believe. I know players have won twice in a row. I'm trying to think who Tino has.
Probably AJ.
Yeah, and AJ. And I think there might have been someone else, which I'm not remembering right now. But regardless, she'd be the first Titan of any gender to win 3 in a row there, which would be absolutely awesome seeing Shannon create history at our club. What I want to do next, Blaze, is I want to review our draw. I want to go through and see who we're versing where and where they finished last year. Now, of course, every season's different, but as it currently stands, we haven't seen a ball kicked, so we can only gauge sides off where they were this time last year. Round 1, versing the Dragons in Wollongong. They were 7th last year. Round 2, we are versing the Tigers at home. They were 8th last year. Round 3, we're against the Broncos in Brisbane. They were 5th last year. Round 4, we're against the Cowboys in Townsville. They were 9th last year. Round 5, Roosters at home again. They were 2nd. Round 6, we're against the Sharks at home. They were 6th last year. Round 7, we are against the Eels in Sydney. They were dead last year. Round 8, we're against the Knights at home as well. They were 1st last year. And in round 9, we're against the Raiders in Sydney, and they were 5th or 6th last year as well. Now, I know that was a mouthful for our listeners. I'm sorry if that wasn't as
So
tidy.
I'm going to clarify something here. That we said at the start. So the Titans actually came 3rd last year because we played the Roosters at Allianz, and the Broncos came 4th. So you were right there. I know you changed it to 5th while you were saying just then. But you are right. The Broncos did come in 4th last year. It's just earlier on in the podcast, it was actually 3rd that we finished because I remember that we did take on the Roosters. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Well said. My apologies there to our listeners. You know, they probably picked it up at the time and said Clarkey's wrong. Thank you for correcting me there.
No, I was the one who I was the one who read that out at the beginning. But yeah, no, it's all good.
Mate, blame the dodgy person who made the notes for you in that section. That was myself. I'm happy to take the fall for this one, brother. But yeah, for our viewers here on YouTube, we have the ladder up for you now, which you'll be able to see. So we finished in 3rd. Our draw, when you look at that, and after I've read it out there, what do you identify as the most important period? Or what are some games that you sort of circle out of that you really want to see us turn up at and have a big impact on?
Well, we must win those first 4 games. Well, not all 4. We must beat the Dragons and the Tigers, in my opinion. If we believe that we are a team that's going to win the premiership, we must beat the Dragons and the Tigers. Broncos is 50-50 because that is at Suncorp Stadium. So I'm going to try and get to that one. That'll be really interesting to see how that one does get along there. Last time we played them, I think that was the game that Lauren Brown actually kicked the field goal against them to win last season. And then we play the Cowboys, who will be improved this year, but I still think we should beat them. So I will expect to come out with at least 3 wins from that first 4. Now, I actually believe we should be getting 4 wins out of our first 4 there. But I will give the Broncos their due credit and say they might be a bit of a better team this year, and they were still decent enough last year. When you go into the most important part of the season, though, Roosters, Sharks, Eels, and Knights. Now, there is one fraud there, and that is the Eels. But the other 3 teams are 3 teams that are going to be really dangerous. The Knights obviously came first, the Roosters came second, and the Sharks are going to be improved from their 6th position last year. So we need to have won a good portion of those games early because we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves, which is what we're seeing in the men's game right now. Because we lost those early part of the season, the 0-6 or whatever, 0-7, whatever it was, we put too much pressure on the back end of the comp. So now in this women's game, we need to learn from that and realize that we need to win early and to win decently so that we get on a roll. And then when we play the Roosters at home and the Knights at home, that's brilliant. And the Raiders in Canberra or Sydney or whatever, well, it says Sydney there, but for the Raiders in Sydney, is that right? That we're playing in Sydney?
Yeah, Combank. I assume it's a double header with an NRL game.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, look, I'm really impressed that we get both of our home games against the two big dogs in the competition. I didn't want to go to McDonald Jones Stadium, not a fun place to go to. And four of those, three of those four, Roosters, Sharks, and Knights are all at home. So it's a great opportunity for every single one of you to get out and support this team. I'll be there with the drums. The front line will be there getting loud and proud. And you guys need to get out to these three home games and support the life out of this team, because that's a really important time. But also, a couple of them are double headers with our men, so it'll be a good time.
And just to reiterate, if our women's side was to win this year, they would be the first Gold Coast professional team in any sport to bring gold home to the Gold Coast, which will be absolutely amazing. I have identified our first three games, mate. I think we can beat the Dragons. I absolutely think we should beat the Tigers at home. And a slight correction for the Broncos game, it's actually at Totally Workwear Stadium, which is the East Tigers home ground, I believe, in reserve grade.
Near enough to Gabba, I think it is.
Okay, so we don't have to go to a tough home ground of the Broncos where it could potentially be a doubleheader and they've packed it out early, for example. So I actually think if we win those first three games, we really set ourselves up to beat the Cowboys. If we were to beat the Cowboys, who were ninth last year, or around the bottom there, then we verse the Roosters at home, and that's the halfway mark of the season. Why that makes me so excited is they are the side that everyone's predicting to win this year. So it gives us a chance halfway through the season to see exactly where we're at and exactly what we need to improve on. The second thing I want to...
Sorry to interrupt you. I don't think that are we going to get into like our overall predictions in a second? Yeah, overall season prediction. Okay, I'll leave it for now. So you keep talking.
Okay. And then what I also love is, and as you pointed out, the Knights are the other big in this competition. We don't verse them in the final round. We verse them in round 8 at home, right? And what that does is it gives us a chance, if we do lose to the Knights and come up short at home, it gives us a chance to rebound in a Raiders game that is a touch easier to get that confidence, because you don't want to lose a week before you go into finals. You want to kind of have a chance to hit it with some momentum. And I think we get that opportunity as well. All things considered, when I look at this draw, mate, I'm going to give us an A-. I actually think that we can win the first four. We get a bit of a reality check at the halfway point, whether we're, soaring where we think we are or we need to work on things. And then we get a chance to correct things after versing the back-to-back reigning premiers before we go, hopefully, into finals. So A-, I think it's a really good draw. What grading would you give it between A+ and F-?
I'll give it an A. I expect to make a home final. I'll be honest, I expect to have a home final, because those four games, very winnable. Roosters game at home, which makes it winnable. Knights game at home, which makes it winnable. Mind you, we also beat the Roosters in a finals game down away at Allianz Stadium last year. So they're both at home. Sharks at home. Eels and Raiders we should be beating. So maybe the Raiders will be maybe tough, but they're not even at home. So they're not. It's not in Canberra. It's in Sydney. So I think that our draw is an A, and I think that we should be expecting a home final here with the roster that we have, and the big matches that we play this year are at home.
Great call, mate. I am absolutely with you. And you've gone into kind of a bit of a season prediction there. So let's keep on that train and finish with that for the podcast. Overall season prediction for us, mate. The chains are off. You are absolutely unleashed like a pit bull. Tell me where we finish this season. I want you barking down that microphone, mate. Where do we finish on the ladder? Where have you got us finishing, mate? Tell me why it is first.
I am actually tipping it first. I am.
Same.
And I think that the reason I'm going to actually, what I was going to correct you on before is that I don't think people are as high on the Roosters as they once were, because they've had an injury to Corbin Baxter, which is a fantastic fullback there. They've also had a couple of injuries across the team, and their depth is currently struggling at the moment. They're naming a few debutants this weekend as well. And I feel like the Roosters are going to, overall, they'll still make the finals this year, but I don't think they're going to be as strong as they have been in previous years. When you look at Surges and you look at Kelly, of course, they're two fantastic players. Look, I think that the Knights, they've got a new coach this year. They're not got the same coach from the last 2 years where they've won the premiership. He's gone over to the Warriors now, who are coming in next year. And he's doing, I think, the younger grades. It might be the Harvey Norman. I don't know if they have a women's team there, but he's coaching the younger grades until next year when the Warriors come in. So, yeah, I think that our biggest test this year could actually be like a team like the Broncos or the Sharks. The Cowboys are a team that are a really gritty mindset. Like, they're a tough team, but also I just don't think they're going to have the depth or the long-term distance in them to go down deep into the finals. So I am going to tip us to come first and get our first home final, yeah.
I'm going to tip us for first as well. I really want to get to some NRLW games this year. It was the first thing I checked. Are they playing in Canberra again? Unfortunately not. Now, although we both think we're going to be first, mate, we are actually kind of underdogs in this competition where the Roosters, Broncos, and Knights are all favoured ahead of us to win this premiership. And that
sounds like good odds for me.
Absolutely. Now, that is based on betting odds, which isn't the be-all and end-all, but it is an accurate gauge because that's obviously what bookies are willing to risk. And, yeah, they think the Knights, Broncos, and Roosters are all a better chance than us in that order.
I'm pretty certain we were fourth or fifth last year too.
Yeah, that just shows you don't always get it right. I'm only trying to use that as a measure there. But, mate, I absolutely believe we will finish first. I'm really impressed that we kept the bulk of our squad together. The only real loss from our 17 is Steph Hancock. And as we touched on in our depth department, we've got 7 middle forwards. So we're absolutely equipped in that area to select, one of those forwards to step up. And I think they actually can. But another key factor that no one is considering, and I know you are because you mentioned it earlier, it's the return of Fumayano. But we have a genuine rep, Jillaroos and Sky Blues player returning to play 6 for us this year, where last year, when things weren't going well for us, people forget, we had Shante Kiriaratu and Sienna Lafipo, 2 very young halves. We've now got Lauren Brown, who had 3 try assists in a grand final, kicked a field goal to win Origin game, who is as clutch and experienced as it absolutely comes. He can play anywhere on the park. And we've got Talia Fumayano, who's one of the best attacking 5'8", healthy and back, ready to go for the whole season. So I don't care what people say, man. I have us finishing first, and I am really, really excited for this year. And I also loved your message of getting down, getting around it in the front line and supporting this women's team. We have an opportunity in the front line to become the most supportive NRLW fan base in the league. And then we can absolutely nail that, get behind this team, and be there, be a part of history when these girls go start to finish and win the NRLW premiership. You as the fan can be a part of that journey in history. And 20 years from now, you can tell people, when the first ever Gold Coast team won a premiership, I was at every home game that year. I was supporting the team. That's awesome, guys. That is actual history there that you can be a part of in the front lines. Get around it. Absolutely get around it, man. Any final message from yourself?
No, I think it's the same as what you've just said. This team needs support. This team needs you to get down and back us in. We have a good stretch of home games this year. The second game's at home. Then Brisbane is basically at home. Like, that's just an hour up the road. The Roosters and the Sharks at home. The Knights at home. Like, we have a lot of home games this year, and it's against good opposition. So, I think that it's going to be an exciting year, man. And fire up because our women's team are coming, and you can't stop them.
Well said, mate. Final admin point for the show. We do have a Phone the Frontline. Now, if you're listening as a podcast service or on YouTube, that'll be in the description. What it is a service where basically bring it up on your phone, talk into your microphone like a normal phone call, and you leave us a voice message. The idea is before the NRLW game kicks off or afterwards, jump on, give us your thoughts. It could be a controversial moment, a key moment. You could want to give a player a shout out, absolutely anything. And we react live to those on the podcast here. You'll hear your own voice come through the NRLW sections of our podcast. So absolutely keen for the year ahead. From myself, I want to say thank you very much for being here with us for our NRLW and Round 1 season preview. Absolutely appreciate the support here on the Gold Coast Titans Frontline Podcast. And we just cannot wait to dive into this NRLW season with you all and support this team from start to finish. So once again, thank you very much. And I'll hand it over to you, Blaze, to say farewell.
Yeah, obviously, guys, they'll wrap us up. For people who are maybe new to tuning in, do know that Clarkey's internet is not usually like this, so it should be fine. You'll still be able to hear everything, and it'll be fine. But overall, just know that the podcast doesn't usually have this kind of problem. So don't stress about that. We'll see you guys next week after we hopefully beat the Dragons. It's going to be a big Sunday. Don't forget, we've got our women's game on at 12 o'clock. We've got the Tweedhead Seagulls taking on, I think it's the Clydesdales, if I'm not mistaken. in a game, and then at like 1 o'clock or 1:45, and then we've got our men's game on at 4 p.m. Titans versus the Clarkey Dolphins. So, big weekend for us. Get around on Sunday, and guess what we're doing here, Dane? Guess what we're doing? Zing! Zing! Zing!